This is the British built Quad 405, the original version, not the 405-2. Classic looking sort of amplifier with the big heatsink on the front. TO3 devices on the output stages, built by Quad Acoustical. What do they used to call themselves? Acoustical Manufacturing Limited, in Huntingdon in England. All hand wired. This one's circa mid-80s, I should think, probably one of the later, before they went over to the 405-2. Good sounding amplifier, won lots of awards for its sound quality. I've had this one for 15 years or so. It was given to me by a friend who upgraded to a 405-2. Presently I'm running it on the audio analyzer, just to see what it will do. It's been sitting around for a while. It was rated at 100 watts RMS per channel, and it was often criticised for not being able to drive particularly complicated loads, i.e. wouldn't cope with 4 loads particularly well. It used to didn't have really the current capability, despite the huge transformer and substantial looking capacitors and things like that. But here you can see it's running just short of clipping now, and it's reading out power at the moment, so you can see that's 111 watts. And it seems to be running absolutely fine. It's getting quite hot, the front heatsink, which they used to do. I remember them, if you drove them hard, they would get quite hot. Certainly the heatsink on the top here is probably, must be 60 degrees now, I should think. But it has been being driven fairly hard for quite a while now. Let's have a look on the, get a lock on it. Yeah, it's about 50 degrees, around 50 degrees, somewhere like that. So it's getting pretty hot. But a good sounding amplifier. There are lots of mods you can do with these amplifiers. One of them was to change the front end op amplifier, which I've already done on this. And you can see with all this wiring I've hashed up, it's because it uses a very unorthodox 4-pin DIN connector, which is I think I have got one, but I haven't got a phono lead to interface with anything other than the Quad preamplifier. So I just basically jerry-rigged all these wires up to the Hewlett-Packard just to get some sort of idea if it's still working properly or not. The resistors are getting nice and warm now, but I think they're 200 watt resistors, so they won't struggle at all. I was going to run it through a frequency sweep and check the distortion. I'm just going to back the power back a bit now. Let's get the power back to something like sort of halfway. So okay, run it at 30 watts, and then we'll do a total harmonic distortion. It's 0.3%, which isn't great actually. It could be something to do with the way all these cables are all rigged up here. Maybe not that great connection, but 0.3% is higher than I'd expect for an amplifier like this. But it certainly seems to be working okay. I mean, I haven't plumbed it up to speakers for a while, but certainly think it never sounded like there was ever a problem with this amplifier. I did change a couple of the capacitors when the person first gave it to me. The sound was very noisy, and I replaced a couple of these. I don't know if you can see these blue Philips capacitors in series. I think that was one of them I changed. And actually thinking about it, these caps are probably on their way out now, so they could probably all do with replacing. So let's do a response on it and see what we get on the frequency response side. Let's just move the cable out of the way. So we'll do the normal thing. Start from 20 kilohertz, 20 hertz, and end at 20 kilohertz. So start and stop. So frequency 1 kilohertz, and we'll set our something's floating there. Actually, I thought I got a belt of the Hewlett-Packard. Maybe it's my imagination. The scope's not the HP is not actually running on an isolation transform, because it gives strange earth loops if I do that and get sort of like a 50 hertz beat on the waveform. So we'll go ratio mode. Get it right in a minute. Okay, there's ratio mode. No, it's not, because we're still in distortion. Right, okay, let's start the sweep. Now, it should be very good, this amplifier. I mean, it's a good quality amplifier. I'd expect a pretty flat response from this. Interesting, and nearly a 1 dB roll off at high frequency, which is a lot more than I'd expect. I thought it might have been totally flat, but I am using some pretty awful leads just to jerry-rig this thing together, so it's probably pretty good actually. I think we'll probably call that as more or less flat as possible, as you'd expect really. I might do another run when I get the proper. I'm getting some different adapters to adapt into the Hewlett-Packard, so I'd have to use all these cheap nasty phono leads. So that seems okay. It seems like it's got a frequency response fairly flat. It's just interesting. Let's go to 50 kilohertz and see what output it's making there. Yeah, heavy attenuation at 50 kilohertz, which is what you'd expect for an audio amplifier. You don't want it to be amplifying stuff in that sort of range. So it's pretty got a pretty fast roll off above 20 kilohertz. It also helps stability of the amplifier and prevents it from motor boating and things like that. Or the worst problems are when the amplifiers go unstable and they're actually out of audio range. You can actually blow your speakers up. Anyway, yeah, the amplifier, the front of the heatsink's pretty hot now, but it seems to be working absolutely fine, and it seems to be producing more than its fair share of output. So that's the Quad 405. Nice amplifier. Pick them up on eBay. Best thing to do is get one of these and get the Quad 34 or the later preamplifiers, and you should have a nice sounding amplifier. Thanks for watching.